Now, the various learning outcomes from this module are: you will come to know what is a strategy, how is a strategy formulated, and what are the various types of strategies. Let me first introduce you to this particular concept. You see, the word strategy comes from the Greek word strategos, which means generalship. Hence, it is associated with war and military. In war, it means the action taken by the general in response to the action taken by the enemies. In management, Chandler gave a more comprehensive definition of the word strategy. According to him, strategy is the determination of the goals and objectives of the enterprise and the allocation of resources and necessary actions taken to accomplish those goals and objectives. Now we shall be discussing the strategy formulation, that is, how strategies are formed and what are the various types of strategies, as it is very important for an entrepreneur to adopt the right kind of strategy to run his business venture successfully. Now we will talk about strategy formulation. Under strategy formulation, the first thing which comes is the organizational mission, vision and objectives. In any organization, the very first step in strategy formulation is to first decide about its mission, vision and objectives. Now let us talk about each one of them one by one. First we will talk about mission. According to Peter Drucker, mission is the purpose for which the organization has come into existence and the image which the organization seeks to project to the world. According to Pierce and Robinson, mission is the fundamental unique purpose that sets a company apart from other firms and identifies the scope of its operations. An organization's mission is used as a guideline by managers to take appropriate decisions. Now let's talk about vision. Vision is the imagination of the organization of its future events. It is the organization's projection about where it should go and what challenges lie ahead of it. And the third is the objectives. Objectives are the end result that an organization strives for. They are scheduled for attaining during a planned period of time. The second step under formulation is environmental scanning. For a business venture to succeed in a volatile and dynamic environment, it is very important that it has a sound and a good knowledge about its environment. Environmental scanning is also known as environmental appraisal. It is the overall analysis of the business organization of its external environment. Usually, the following two processes are followed by a business organization to do its environmental scanning. The first is that the business organization monitors the various environmental factors like the competitors, customers, market, climate, legal rules, economy, ecology, technology and other various things. The second is, after monitoring the environmental factors, the business organization identifies the various opportunities and threats that the organization is facing. You see, environmental scanning is a continuous process which an organization has to keep on doing in order to survive. It has to keep updating itself about the threats and opportunities it is facing, as they do not remain a threat or an opportunity forever. They keep changing with time and circumstances. The third step in strategy formulation is industry and competition analysis. Industry may be defined as a group of firms or organizations that provide similar product or services. For example, the pharmaceutical industry. In a pharmaceutical industry, each firm manufactures and supplies medicines. Hence, for an organization to remain in business, it is very important that it analyzes its industry. This it can do by analyzing its competitors. Michael Porter, a professor at Harvard Business School, has laid down an analytical framework called the 5 forces model of competition to analyze the competitive environment of a business organization. So now let's look into the 5 forces of competition. In the 5 forces model of competition, the business organization has to study and analyze the following 5 forces. The first one, the degree of rivalry among the competitors. More firms in an industry mean more intense competition and rivalry among them. All firms have same objective of increasing their market share and sales. Hence, they compete against each other. Hence, more firms mean more rivalry and fewer firms mean less rivalry. The second, the threats of entry of new competitors. In a profitable industry, for the existing firms, there is always a threat of new firms entering the industry. If the barriers to industry are strong, then there is less likelihood for new firms to enter the industry. But if the barriers to entry are weak, then there is strong likelihood for new firms to enter the industry. Now let's look into the third 5 forces given by Porter. The third one is the substitute products. The availability of product substitutes offered by firms in other industry limits the growth of an industry. The growth of an industry will not be hampered if there are no close substitutes being offered by firms in other industry. The fourth is the degree of bargaining power of the seller or the supplier of raw material. When there are large sellers or the raw material is not available in the open market, then the bargaining power of the supplier becomes very strong. Suppliers have a weak bargaining position when there is a large number of suppliers or the raw material is easily available in the open market or when there are substitutes available in the market. The fifth is the degree of bargaining power of the buyer, that is the consumer of the product or the service. Buyers who buy frequently and in bulk or in large quantities have a better bargaining power than buyers who buy infrequently and in small quantities. According to Porter, there are 6 barriers to industry. So let's look into each one of them. The first is the economies of scale. Economies of scale enjoyed by existing firms will pose barrier to new entrants due to their cost advantage. They will have to start at a large scale in order to enjoy economies of scale. The second barrier is product differentiation. Product differentiation or brand loyalty for existing firms will pose a barrier for new entrants as they will have to spend heavily on advertisement to overcome customer loyalty. The third is the large capital requirement. Large capital requirement for new entrants to enter the industry is a strong barrier. This will restrict firms that have insufficient capital or to enter the industry. The fourth is the cost advantage. Cost advantage enjoyed by existing firms due to its long experience in the industry, proprietary technology or access to best source of raw material will pose strong barriers to new entrants from entering the industry. For example, it was quite difficult for a new car manufacturer to compete with the price of Maruti's entry-level car, that was Maruti 800. The fifth barrier is the limited or absence of distribution channels. Absence of distribution channels may make entry of new firms in the industry quite difficult. New firms will have to spend a lot of money on distribution, which will lead to high cost disadvantage. And the sixth barrier is the government policy. Government policy may restrict new firms through their strict licensing policy, price regulations, safety standards, etc. The fourth step in strategy formulation is the organizational analysis. Organizational analysis means analyzing the internal factors of an organization. In other words, it means corporate appraisal. This is done by auditing organizational strengths and weaknesses. By evaluating the strengths and weaknesses, the organization gets itself prepared to meet the opportunities and threats imposed by its external environment. There are various methods of analyzing the strengths and weaknesses of an organization. Some of them are as follows. First, we'll talk about SWOT analysis and TOWS analysis. SWOT stands for strength, weakness, opportunity and threat. SWOT analysis provides an organization with information about its external opportunities and threats and its internal strengths and weaknesses. It helps the organization to compare its external opportunities and threats with its internal strengths and weaknesses and thereby adopt the most suitable strategy which helps in tapping the opportunities and minimizing the threats. TOWS, on the other hand, stands for threat, opportunity, weakness and strength. Unlike SWOT, here the organization sees how the external threats and opportunities can be best matched with the internal weaknesses and strengths of the organization and then accordingly adopt the most suitable strategy. The strategies adopted may be either for growth of the organization or for divestment, that is retrenchment of the organization. The other method of analyzing the company is core competence. It is quite possible that one firm's strength may be other firm's strength as well. A firm gets a competitive advantage over other firms if its strengths are confined only to itself and are not shared by other organizations. Strengths of a firm which cannot be emulated or copied by other firms will definitely give the firm a competitive advantage over other firms. C.K. Prahalad and Gary Hamel have propounded the concept of core competence. According to them, core competence is a strength of an organization which cannot be easily imitated by other organizations and hence gives the organization a competitive edge over its competitors. Core competence may be a special technical know-how or a product expertise which cannot be easily emulated by others. Now, we'll talk about the various types of strategies. First, we'll talk about the generic competitive strategy. Competitive advantage means superiority of one organization over other organizations or its competitors. The superiority exists due to the presence of a core competence or factors that are present in an organization and are critical for its success, and such factors are absent or are hard to be copied by other competing organizations. Hence, organizations world over try to adopt strategies that give them competitive advantage over their competitors. According to Michael Porter, there are 5 types of competitive strategies that organizations may follow to get competitive advantage. These are, the first one is the low cost provider strategy. In this type of strategy, the firm follows an overall low cost leadership strategy. Compared to its competitors, the firm charges the lowest price for its product or service in the market. For example, in comparison to other airlines like Air India and Jet, Indigo charges the lowest airfare from its passengers. The second, which Michael Porter has mentioned, is the differentiation strategy. Here, the firm tries to differentiate its product or service from that of its rivals or competitors. They differentiate the product in terms of its features, technology, packaging, marketing, etc. The differentiated products and services are often sold at high prices to the buyers. For example, Body Shop, a company that provides beauty products, has a wide range of products which are priced quite high in the market. The company has differentiated itself from other companies by advocating animal welfare. It does not use animals or indulge in any kind of unethical treatment of animals in manufacturing its products. The third is the best cost provider strategy. In this type of strategy, the firm assures the customer value for money spent on buying the goods or services. The motive of the firm is to charge lowest price for a product with certain attributes which are also present in similar products being sold by the competitors. Hotels often use this strategy. They promise their customers value for money by offering them a package like a holiday package which include accommodation, food, sightseeing, transportation, etc. at a price which is quite low compared to the price offered by the competitors for similar attributes. The fourth is the focused or market niche strategy based on lower cost. In this strategy, the firm targets a narrow or a concentrated segment of buyers and sells them the product at the lowest cost. For example, Nirma targets the low-income group consumers and sells them washing powder at a low price. The fifth and the last one is the focused or market niche strategy based on differentiation. In this strategy, the firm targets a narrow or a concentrated segment of buyers and sells them differentiated product which meets the taste and preferences of the customers better than the products with similar attributes offered by the rivals. For example, Johnson & Johnson company cater only to the infants and provide them with baby products like baby cream, baby powder, baby soap, etc. Now we'll talk about the second strategy. The second is the stability strategy. Stability means being consistent over a period of time. Stability strategy is used by organizations when they want to maintain the present course over a period of time. They concentrate the organizational resources in the present endeavor and continue doing it over a period of time. The main aim of following this strategy is to maintain steadiness in business by ensuring stable growth in its operations. The third strategy is the growth strategy. Growth strategy is adopted by an organization when it wants to go higher and achieve higher objectives, much higher than its past achievement. There are 4 types of growth strategies that are adopted by organizations. Each one of them we'll discuss now. The first is called the internal growth strategy. This is also called concentric expansion strategy, where growth is done by expanding the present line of business. This can be done by any of the following strategies. First, market penetration. In market penetration, the organization tries to increase the market share by capturing the market and increasing the sale of its existing goods and services. For example, Coke and Pepsi normally follow this strategy. They use this strategy to capture the market and increase their sale. The second is market development. In market development, the organization aims to capture new markets, either geographically or demographically. For example, Airtel, a mobile service provider, has very well tapped the rural market of India. Rural market was once an unexplored market for mobile service providers in India. The next strategy is product development. In product development, the product is improved through new technology or innovation so as to appeal to the present as well as to a newer market segment. For example, reel-based cameras have now been replaced by digital cameras. The next strategy of growth is vertical integration strategy. In vertical integration strategy, an organization decides to combine all processes of marketing, distribution, production, etc. within its own confines. Generally, some of the processes like distribution are often handled by some other independent entity. This is so because it is more advantageous for organizations to focus on only a few processes and leave the rest like distribution to other entities like retailers and wholesalers. This way they save on cost, labor and time. However, at times organizations decide to perform all processes themselves. This is called vertical integration. There are 2 types of vertical integration. First is called forward integration. In forward integration, organization includes successive processes which are needed to get the final product to the consumer. For example, a firm, instead of using a distribution channel like retailers and wholesalers, opens its own showroom to sell its product. For example, Bata, a shoe company, has its own retail outlets for selling shoes and other leather items like purses and belts. Second is backward integration. In backward integration, organization includes reverse direction processes which are needed to make the final product. For example, a car manufacturing firm, instead of buying tires from other manufacturers, plans to set up a tire manufacturing division of its own and manufacture its own tires and use them in making its own cars. The third kind of growth strategy is the diversification strategy. This is one of the oldest strategies used by entrepreneurs when it comes to expansion of their business. In this, they enter new businesses which may be new to the existing organization. There are basically 4 types of businesses which an organization may choose to do when it uses the diversification strategy to expand its business. There are 4 types of diversification strategy. Let us see each one of them. First is the horizontal diversification. In horizontal diversification, the organization diversifies in similar product. For example, an organization that manufactures lady garments diversifies and starts manufacturing gents garments as well. The second is vertical diversification. In vertical diversification, the organization adds new processes to the same business. This can be either forward integration or backward integration, which we have just discussed. The third is the concentric diversification. In concentric diversification, the organization adds a new business which is not similar to the existing business but somehow related to the existing business. The relationship may either be market oriented or technically oriented. In market oriented concentric diversification, the organization starts a new business which uses the same marketing facilities which are being used by its existing business. For example, a lipstick manufacturing firm plans to diversify into manufacturing of body lotion. The two products are quite different, but the distribution and marketing facilities for both will be the same. Next is the conglomerate diversification. In conglomerate diversification, the organization diversifies into businesses which are unrelated with the existing business. For example, a tea manufacturing firm diversifies into garment manufacturing business. Now we will talk about the 4th kind of growth strategy, which is called the external growth strategy. The organization may use an external growth strategy by combining 2 or more existing businesses. This can be done in any of the following 4 ways. The first is merger or amalgamation. In merger, an organization combines with one or more other organizations to form a new organization. It may take the form of vertical merger, horizontal merger, concentric merger or conglomerate merger. The next is takeover or acquisition. In takeover, one organization acquires full control of another organization. Generally, a bigger company takes over full control of a smaller company, wherein the small company loses its identity. The control can be acquired either amicably or by force. When done by force, it is called hostile takeover. The third is the joint venture. In joint venture, 2 or more organizations come together to form a new organization to carry out a particular business. For instance, Government of India and Suzuki Company of Japan came together to form Maruti Udyog. In joint venture, each organization brings with itself its own set of expertise and resources. Here, both the companies keep their identities intact. And the last one is called the strategic alliance. Strategic alliance is similar to joint venture, but is for a specific period and for a specified objective. Once the objective for which the alliance was made is fulfilled, then the alliance is terminated. Hence, alliances don't last forever. Now, after discussing the three kinds of strategies, which was the competitive strategy, growth strategy, stability strategy, now we will discuss the retrenchment strategy. Retrenchment is the opposite of growth. Retrenchment in literal sense means reduction or cutback. When an organization is not doing well or is incurring losses over a period of time, then it may adopt the retrenchment strategy. There are three kinds of retrenchment strategy that an organization may adopt. They are the turnaround strategy, the divestment strategy, and the liquidation strategy. So let's discuss each one of them. The turnaround strategy. The turnaround strategy is also known as the cutback strategy. Here the organization believes in the philosophy of holding the present business and cutting down the costs. This happens when the sales and profits of an organization are continuously declining. The second is the divestment strategy. This strategy is adopted by an organization when the turnaround strategy cannot make the business operations any better. Hence, the only option left with the organization is to stop such business operations. The strategy adopted to get out of such businesses and sell them off is called the divestment strategy. Here only a division or a part of the business which is making losses sold off or shut down. The third and the last one is called the liquidation strategy. This is an extreme case of divestment strategy where the organization as a whole shuts down or is sold off. In this case, the entire business operations are sold off and the proceeds from the sale may be utilized in new venture creation. The fifth strategy, entrepreneurial strategy, which we will talk about now, is called the combination strategy. Combination strategy means an amalgam of any of the three strategies which we have discussed, that is stability, growth or retrenchment. It is usually followed by organizations that have different business operations. It is quite possible that some business operations of the organization might be making huge profits, some making fewer profits and some making only losses. Hence, there is a need to follow different strategies for different business operations. The various possible combination strategies that an organization may adopt are any one of these following. First, stability strategy in some business operations and retrenchment strategy in others. Second, stability strategy in some business operations and growth strategy in others. Third, retrenchment strategy in some business operations and growth strategy in others. And the fourth is retrenchment strategy, growth strategy and stability strategy in different business operations. Now, after discussing 5 entrepreneurial strategies, we come to the sixth strategy, which is called the unbundling and outsourcing strategy, which is the most widely used nowadays. You see, vertical integration is quite a costly affair for any organization. Hence, nowadays, organizations are concentrating on fewer activities in which they have competencies and which are cost effective. The rest of the activities are being outsourced or given to other organizations which have the competence and cost effectiveness in doing those activities. The strategy adopted to vertically de-integrate the business is called unbundling or outsourcing. Hence, organizations withdraw themselves from certain activities and rely on other organizations for completion of those activities. The seventh entrepreneurial strategy which we will talk about now is called the offensive strategies. Offensive strategies are used to secure competitive advantage. Competitive advantage is the superiority of one organization over other organizations. This superiority exists due to the presence of a core competence or factors that is absent and is hard to be copied by other competing organizations. But the question is how an organization gets a competitive advantage. It can do so by employing an offensive strategy. In an offensive strategy, the organization makes such moves or initiatives that yield the organization a cost advantage, a differentiated advantage or a resource advantage. The eighth strategy under the entrepreneurial strategies which we have been doing till now is called the defensive strategy. Defensive strategy is done to protect competitive advantage. Unlike offensive strategy, in defensive strategy, the organization makes such moves and initiatives that help it to protect its competitive advantage. It is quite possible that competitors and rivals use offensive strategies against the organization. In such a situation, the organization takes measures to save itself from such offenses. By adopting defensive strategy, the organization lowers the risk of being attacked by the competitors, or if attacked, then mitigates or weakens the impact of such an attack. And the last strategy which we are going to talk about is called the first mover advantage strategy. Exploring a new market or a new product for the very first time can be quite advantageous, as there are no rivals or competitors. Hence, it gives an organization a competitive advantage over others. Of course, the first mover advantage doesn't remain for a very long time, as very soon other organizations enter the field and pose as competitors. So here we come to the end of the module, and I'm sure you all have understood that to become a successful entrepreneur, it is very, very important that he or she uses the right kind of strategy. And we have seen how the strategy is formulated, we have seen the various types of strategy, and what particular strategy is best suited for a particular circumstance or a situation.